Good morning, everyone. I came out this morning. It's pretty windy out today, so I came out to check on all my tomato starts. I have 106 tomato starts here, so I want to make sure that it doesn't get too windy on them and make sure it doesn't get too cold. So these are all my tomato starts. There's 106 of them there, which is probably double what we normally plant. And I've got them here in what I've been calling the herb garden, because this is where I'm putting all my herbs. And they're in here because they're under the shade cloth. I actually brought these out when they were about 4 inches tall. They were hitting my grow lights, and I didn't feel like lifting the grow lights, and it was 80 degrees outside, so I just brought them out, and they've been out here ever since. So I want to show you what we have in this herb garden, because I'm hoping this garden's going to do really well and it'll be here for a long time to come. So let me show you what's in here. So other than all my tomato starts, I've also got these sweet potatoes in here. These are some that we harvested last year and they had some growth on them. So I was trying to see if I could get some sweet potato slips off of those. So far they haven't done anything. We've got a few pepper starts. Not all the seedlings grew. All the seeds that I put in, they didn't all grow, so that's what we do have left. It looks like one of them died. So we lost one right there. That one didn't make the transplant, or actually it looks like it broke off, so I don't know what happened there. But that's what we've got left. I needed to start some more because that's not enough. So I've got this seed tray here where I have started everything. I don't know if it was a good idea, bad idea, but we've got watermelons and pumpkins and peppers and lettuce and chard and kale and everything in there. This one pot here, this is dragon fruit. And if you guys have never heard of it, dragon fruit, I don't know much about it. All I know is it will take about 7 years to produce fruit. So the plan is, because it's a tropical plant, you're supposed to grow it in like zone 10 or 11, and we're in 8B here. So my plan was to grow it in a pot and just bring it in to the house in the winter time to keep it nice and warm, hopefully keep it growing until it gets too big for that. Then all we can do is plant it outside and hope it survives. Sorry about the wind noises. Like I said, it's windy out here, which is why I came out to check on the tomatoes. Wanted to make sure they weren't getting too much wind. I don't want them to break or anything. All right, so moving on to what's in this herb garden for the herbs. So down here in this corner, now these are all, most of these are all store-bought. This is a dill plant. I put it in the corner because I know it's going to get big, but we need a lot of dill for when we're making pickles. Then we've got some cilantro. I've never grown cilantro. I don't really use cilantro in my cooking, but I guess I can if it does well. And then moving down, we have an empty spot right here just because I had seedlings in the way there. Now here is a thyme plant. I started this plant last year from seed, and we just brought it down here yesterday. It had taken off in the garden. Now last year this never produced. It stayed really small. So somehow this spring it decided, hey, I'm gonna grow, and it has gotten big. It's probably 18 inches across, and that's all from this year. So that's pretty neat. We were weeding some of the pet beds and we found it. So that is one that I started from seed last year. I watered it in really good when I moved it down here. Hopefully it'll do well. Okay, and then, so after the thyme, we've got some curled parsley. This is another store-bought start. I have grown parsley from seed, but I just didn't feel like it this year. Some chives, also store-bought, but I have some chives up in the garden that I'm also going to bring down that I started from seed about 2 years ago. We've got some sage. Sage it's not a perennial, so you have to plant that every year, so I did buy one. Our third raspberry bush that we have bought, I keep buying raspberry bushes because Mikey loves raspberries, and I keep planting them and then they keep dying. Maybe this year will be different. We do have a spot to put that, we just haven't gotten around to doing it yet. Okay, over here, this was grown from seed. This is oregano, and as you can see, oregano likes to get really big and spread out. This is 2 years old, and this year I will probably harvest a bunch of it and dehydrate it, but that is doing really good, and that we started last year. Now down this end of the herb garden, we don't have any herbs because I had too many potatoes, if you saw that video, and so I planted some potatoes in here. Now the potatoes in here are not as big as the ones up in the garden, probably because this has the shade cloth on it, but we wanted to try different areas to see how things grow here. So we have some potatoes down here in the shade, and then we have a ton of potatoes up in the garden, which is full sun all day long. And then in this big pot there is a potato. We had a store-bought potato. We just put that in there yesterday. We had a store-bought potato that was growing, and so we gave it to Mikey and told him, that's your potato, you grow it and see if you can get us some potatoes. So Mikey's potato is in that, it's probably a 20-gallon pot there, and he wanted to put it in here under the shade. If it doesn't do well, we'll just pick up the whole pot and take it out into the sun. So that's what's going on in the herb garden. We also have, same as last year, we have a lot of volunteer plants from not harvesting or from feeding things to the chickens. So I want to show you something we found out here in the barnyard. It was kind of funny, but over here we have this cage on the ground. I don't know if you can see it because it's a cage, but we put this cage here to protect all these volunteer plants. There's 1, 2, there's one down there, there's 3, and then there's one right there, which is 4. And I don't know what they are. They could be pumpkin, they could be watermelon, they could be cucumber. I have no idea what they are. It's from feeding the leftovers to the chickens. So yeah, we figured we'd protect them and see if they'll produce. Put the cage over it so I don't accidentally mow them over. We did notice out here in the grass there was also some tomato plants coming up, but I mowed those over. I had to mow this yesterday. It was getting quite long. But just walking around out here, going to feed the animals, and there was tomatoes growing. I did mow them over. Who knows what would grow out here if you didn't mow it. All kinds of things might grow here. We have another one right here that we put a cage on top of because it's pretty big and I didn't want to kill it. Again, it could be melon or pumpkin. It's not, I don't think it's going to be a cucumber. I think it's either going to be a pumpkin or a watermelon. And I can't imagine how it got all the way down here because I always feed the chickens the scraps up in that area. So somehow this one got all the way down here. And our fig tree is looking really nice. But yeah, so spring is my favorite time of year. All of these things start popping up, and it's always fun to find volunteer plants. And then you have to decide though, am I gonna mow it over or am I gonna let it grow and see if it will grow on its own? I mean, the seedling decided it wanted to grow, so why not let it grow, right? So I'm going to take you up and show you the garden, the potatoes that we planted, a little bit less than a month ago. They are doing fantastic. So here's the potatoes. And the potatoes, the biggest ones, and the ones that came up first were the Red New Orleans. That's this center row right here. Those were up probably a week before either of the other ones. And you can see they are They are much bigger and bushier. Those are the Yukon Golds. That's the Red Norland. And that is, I don't know. What else did I plant, guys? I don't remember. But with all this wind, this landscape fabric gets moved also. And so like right here, there's a potato underneath. Well, I guess not because the landscape fabric moved. It kind of came up off to the side. I think we need bigger holes in the landscape fabric. You can see this one. It's coming up underneath the landscape fabric instead of in the middle of the hole. So, but I think every single potato has sprouted. This one's still really tiny, but it's in there. I'm going to be so excited if these all produce. Even if they only produce 2 potatoes each, that would be, oh, here's one that didn't sprout. Nothing in that hole. But even if all of these potatoes only produce 2 potatoes each, that would still be more potatoes than we've gotten to this point. This potato plant, a couple of these plants are really big. They got really big leaves on them. I can't remember what kind this is. I'm gonna have to look back at my own video to see what we planted. Now see, this is what happens because we don't have this staked down good enough. So when it gets windy, it's all blowing, and sometimes it'll come off the plants. And so we're gonna have to get some more stakes, but also these stakes rust in the ground really badly. They rust pretty quickly. So all the fabric is coming off of the broccoli, but we've pretty much look at this. It's already bolting, but we have picked a bunch of broccoli. We have definitely found the trick to growing broccoli here. So these are going to get pulled out. And I think, so I'm going to pull those out, and I think I'm going to plant some of the tomatoes where the broccoli was. So we'll just pull them out, put some fertilizer in the hole, put the tomato plant in there. Because this side of the garden where the broccoli is gets a lot more sun than the back side. Hang on a second. It seems that the wind has thrown a box into the garden. So this row here where the broccoli is, this front row, it pretty much has sun all day. But I'm putting tomatoes back there after the potatoes, and that's going to get sun at about 2 o'clock, 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So the tomatoes in the back won't get as much sun as the ones in the front. So I might also plant some over here in the raised beds. Still working on figuring everything out, how to make things grow the best. Like we know now for broccoli, we planted this broccoli November 11th last year. So, and we've also tried growing broccoli or starting broccoli in the spring. The stuff we started in the spring, it got totally buggy and we didn't get anything. So now we know 100% that we are starting all of our broccoli in November, probably November 1st this year. But we will start a bunch of broccoli in November, and then we don't have to grow it in the spring. We don't have to fight the bugs. We haven't had any problem with bugs on that broccoli, and we got a ton of broccoli. So now here's the first bed that I showed you that we put in. These are the potato plants that we planted in here. It looks like 99% of those came up. The pea plants, we still haven't put a fence in yet for the peas, but I'm thinking again that's still not going to be enough peas. These were probably 3 different packets of pea seeds that I had, and you can see this packet of seeds did not grow at all. So that whole end is empty. I'll probably put some carrots in there. The peas stop here. We have got the second bed built and we're working on filling it up. We took all the dirt from these beds and we put it in here. So this one's about ready to go. And each one of these beds takes 68 cinder blocks to build it. So we'll pick up 68 more cinder blocks and we'll put landscape fabric down to cover the dirt, because the grass does come up. We're going to cover that with landscape fabric, put down 68 more bricks, and then we'll probably take the dirt from the next row and put it in this one. So that's the plan. Build a bed, bring the dirt in from the next row so that that'll be gone. We can put bricks there, so on and so on. We're not going to get this all done this year. It's a guarantee, because we have 2 other projects going on that I am super excited about. One of them, and I will show that to you. But first, to finish up in the garden, the asparagus, yeah, it grows well, but it doesn't grow enough of it. This is its 3rd year, and as you can see, it goes to seed very, very fast. We have to weed so badly. Somebody want to come help us weed? This here is my tarragon. This thing goes crazy. It is massive. This I started from seed 2 years ago. I have cut it back and cut it back, and it just keeps getting massive. So we're going to take some of this, probably not all of it, we'll cut it back, but we're going to take some of this and put it in the herb garden. So we will have thyme, tarragon, sage, oregano, parsley. I'm not going to put basil down there because the basil gets really big. So I'm going to keep the basil up here in the garden, and it's not a perennial. It won't come back. So I'm definitely going to put the basil up here, probably with the tomatoes. I know you're supposed to interplant basil with tomatoes to keep the bugs away. It seems to help. We don't have a problem with bugs on the tomatoes as much as we have a problem with some sort of disease making the tomatoes just wilt and die. Let me tell you what's been going on here, what we've been working on. Here we are in my shop, and what we're doing is we're setting these bricks in the side, and I'm going to try to explain to you why. We're getting ready to put all the dirt in here. We are so tired of that pile of dirt just sitting there. So we really want to get that dirt in here and level this floor out. And so we're putting these bricks, and this was my thought pattern, my thoughts on this. I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but we have this big gap underneath the walls because we knew we had to fill up the floor and level it out. Well, in doing so, I didn't want all the dirt to just fall outside. So we got these 3/4 bricks to put around the outside, which will hold the dirt in so the dirt can't fall out. Also, we're going to pour a concrete floor. So this dirt is going to come up to this part of the brick. This will be all dirt up to here. That's 4 inches of the brick. From here to the top of the brick is another 4 inches. So we're going to pour the concrete. So the dirt will come to here, and then we'll pour the concrete 4 inches thick to the top of the brick. When we do so, we're going to run some rebar, and we're going to bend it and put it down inside the bricks to tie the bricks to the floor. So that's the idea. Now, some of you are smarter than me, and you told us that my posts were going to rot in the ground because we didn't cement them in the ground, we put them right in the dirt. I could go on Google Maps right now and show you a barn that we built in Colorado that is still standing 20 years later. Problem is, we're not in Colorado, and it rains here. It did not rain where we're from. So before we go and cement all of this in, we didn't want to take the chance of these posts rotting off, which we don't know that they would, but we don't know that they wouldn't. So we're not going to take the chance. What we have been doing is we have jacked up the building. We're just putting this support in here to hold right next to the post, and we cut the post off. We put on these brackets that have pegs that go down in, and we have concreted in, not all of them yet, we're still working on it, but this is concreted in, This level is below the floor level so that when we pour the floor will also cover 2 inches above this sonotube full of concrete. But we have gone around and we have done all of this wall. We just set that one yesterday. We skipped that one and we did this one yesterday. We skipped that one just so that we didn't want to cut off both posts on the back of the building and have the building possibly sink, fall, whatever. So we did 1 post on each side of the wall. Now once this concrete hardens and we know this isn't going to sink any, we'll go back and we'll cut that post and we'll cut that post. And they are jacked up. We do have, we're not just cutting it off. We do have support under it to hold the building up. So once these dry, probably tomorrow, we'll cut that post off. We'll cut that post off, set those. We'll put the brackets on them, set them in concrete, and then we only have 1 more post to go. Once that's done, we can bring in, you can see here, we have brought in a lot of dirt because we needed dirt to level out the bricks. So we've brought in quite a bit of dirt. So once all these bricks are set, we'll bring in the rest of the dirt. And then we will rent a packing machine. We'll get it all packed down. And then here's the part that you guys are gonna think I'm messed up. We have a very small house fund to build the house. We also have the money that we live on every month because we are on a fixed income. I don't wanna wait anymore to build a house. I'm done waiting. I want to get started. If we don't start, we'll never finish. So I am going to pour a little bit of concrete in this shop. We're going to pour this concrete in 3 slabs. It's going to be a 10 by 12 slab. So from each post, so from the back to that post is 1 slab. And then from this post to this post is another slab. Each slab is going to cost a certain amount of money that we can afford to spend once a month for 1 slab. So if we can get all the bricks set and all the dirt in and packed down and leveled out this month, I'm hoping to pour the first section of this floor this month. Once that is poured, we're going to move my table saw onto it. And then we're going to go to a different project. We're going to take the house money that we have been saving and we're going to start our house. So instead of taking the house money and finishing my shop floor, which a lot of you probably would do, we are not going to do that. We're going to do my shop as we can afford monthly. And we're going to take our house fund and we're going to start a house. Now, we're not building a house. We're really not. Don't put that out there. We're not building a house. We're going to build a pole barn that we will live in when it's finished. So right here, where our son's camper is, we are preparing to move his camper and we are going to build a pole barn right there. So in the next couple of weeks, we will start digging post holes. This is going to be on a pier foundation. We did look into putting it on a poured concrete wall foundation. Well, let me change that. We tried to look into that. We had a concrete contractor come out to give us an estimate, and he didn't want to do poured concrete. He wanted to do block, and it was cheap enough, but I don't want to do block. I don't know how to set my wet set brackets in the block. I know how to set them in the block. I don't know for sure that where I need them to be would land in wet concrete and not on the webbing or the edge of a block. So I didn't want block. So instead of that, we're just going to build this on piers because we want a crawl space underneath it so we can work on plumbing and what have you. So we're building this on piers. But if you want to see us build that, you're going to have to subscribe and stay tuned because we will be starting that soon. Just be prepared. We may start it soon, but we may finish it 5 years from now. We have no idea when we're going to finish. We have a very small house fund. So it's going to take time, but we will get it done sooner or later.